A pro-life dad is on trial this week for a 2020 peaceful protest at a Michigan clinic that takes the life of the unborn and says the Department of Justice is targeting Christian activists. Joel Curry is one of 7 pro-life activists facing a sentence of up to 11 years and as much as $260,000 in fines. The Justice Department claims they violated the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances, or FACE Act. An 8th protester took a plea deal with the government to testify. The Biden administration has accused the group of conspiracy by blocking the entrances to the clinic and live streaming the event, encouraging others to join.
So we're out here in Sterling Heights to do that. If anybody else wants to come in the Detroit area, come.
The Thomas More Society is representing one of the defendants. Lead counsel Steve Crampton says,
we now have not the blind Lady Justice that the images all portray that just equally applies the law on both sides, but rather a weaponized Department of Justice bent on pursuing and defending one particular political side of the equation and really kind of crucifying the other side, namely the pro-life side.
Crampton is seeking to have the defendants released pending sentencing. Once again, let's talk with the Director of Investigations and Research for Judicial Watch, Chris Farrell. Chris, a majority of charges against American citizens under the FACE Act have been against Christians who seek to protect the lives of unborn children. Is this an intentional effort by Joe Biden and the Department of Justice, do you think?
Absolutely. We're experiencing the most anti-life administration in American history. And if you want to go one step further, just envision a Harris-Walz administration when it comes to being anti-life and pro-abortion. You know, one segment back, we saw doctors laughing and joking about chopping up babies. That's supposed to be normal in this current world. If you're on the right, if you're pro-life, you're going to be subject to a lot of scrutiny and a lot of really judicial prejudice against you, and we've seen that. We're watching it in this case now. If you're a pro-terrorist, pro-Hamas supporter, you can occupy federal government buildings and harass people, and you walk away, no consequences.
Incredible how that works. Now, Chris, I want to show you how that mainstream media reacted to America's 2 vice presidential candidates. First, Tim Walz, then J.D. Vance.
Moderate, very moderate record.
A new moderate.
I think this is the new moderate.
Far from progressive.
He's right down the middle.
He's not just an old white man.
J.D. Vance.
J.D. is at the far extreme.
The most extreme.
Being one of the most extreme. We need to recognize the danger.
Angry and mean and dark.
Cat lady hating sidekick J.D. Vance.
Chris, listening to the legacy media, you think the Democrats are running Mr. Rogers and the Republicans Darth Vader. Do they ever take records and policies into account when talking to candidates?
They don't, and they're reading off of prepared talking points and scripts. I mean, that's why the language is identical, and they repeat the same thing over and over again. Walz is essentially a Bolshevik. He's about as far left as you can get. He's so far to the left, he's at the lunatic extreme level of leftism. And J.D. Vance is probably, we're talking about moderate. He is right down the middle in large part. But they try to paint him as being some kind of a monster. This is typical election year rhetoric. It's propagandistic. It's dishonest. And luckily, the American people know better. They're not going to fall for this kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, yesterday, we reported on the Department of Justice officially admitting Hunter Biden was bribed by a criminal Romanian oligarch to influence U.S. policy through Joe Biden. Why now, Chris, are the Democrats who made Joe Biden back out of the 2024 campaign now leveraging or maybe blackmailing the Biden family? What do you think?
Yeah, well, this really puts a nail in the coffin, figuratively speaking, of any kind of, Biden reversal or this ends the Bidens, right? This is the end of the show. There's no more money making. There's no more leveraging government positions. It's just it seals the deal, and it kind of finishes the coronation of Kamala Harris as the next president in their view.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like the Bidens are now fair game, if you will.
Correct.
Now, Chris,
Correct.
You spoke with media watchdog Brent Bozell on the latest On Watch podcast. What issue did you guys tackle?
We talked about a lot of stuff, a lot of the things we've just been discussing in the last couple of minutes about the dishonesty of the mainstream media about phony narratives, about propaganda. We also talked about Brent Bozell's son and his experience on January 6th. He's been sentenced to almost 4 years in prison, basically for just standing around the Capitol on January 6th. Again, the disparity of treatment, the dual legal system in the country. If you're on the right, you get the hammer dropped on you. If you're on the left, you walk away laughing at justice.
That is unbelievable as far as his son goes. Wow. And so how does Brent feel about his son's ability to fight back? I mean, does he really think he's going to get that sentence?
It looks like he will. I mean, he just turned himself in to begin serving the term a couple of weeks ago, and he's looking at 4 years in jail, just under 4 years. You know, and when you look at what was done in the Capitol building by pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist groups seizing the building, and just see the disparity in treatment. You can judge it yourself.
Not a level playing field. Visit judicialwatch.org for the On Watch podcast and stay up to date with the work of Judicial Watch. Great to see you, Chris.